Belinda.
Hello, Kim. How are you?
I'm doing great. How's everything in Australia?
Oh, it's a little bit chilly here. It's 6:30 in the morning over here, and we're dead in winter. So this is not my most favorite time of year. Let's just say that.
Oh, so when it's winter there, what's the temperature about?
Uh, um, it's we've been having 2-degree mornings, which I don't know. Are you Fahrenheit or
We're Fahrenheit.
Celsius? Oh, I
Fahrenheit.
don't know what. We're 2 degrees. It's been a really cold winter, surprisingly cold. But it's usually about 6 or 7 degrees at this time of morning, Celsius, not Fahrenheit. So I don't know what that converts to, unfortunately.
Wow, I'm going to have to do a quick calculation. Well, well, what time do you get up?
I get up at 5 o'clock every morning. That's
Oh,
I call it my hour of power. I meditate for 20 minutes and exercise for 40, all before the house wakes up. It's
I
my
love
time
it.
for me. Yeah.
I love it that I get up around 5:30, 5:40 to do the same type of thing. Lots
Yeah.
of exercise and I eat around 7:30. When I'm all done, then I have my
Yeah.
nice bowl of oats.
Ah,
Well, thanks for making the time to speak with me today. I hope I didn't interrupt your routine.
no, I still did my meditation this morning. I haven't done the normal amount of exercise that I do, but that's all right. I can make that up, go for a walk at some other point today.
Yeah, there you go. So I know that you're an advocate for children's health and transforming their health through empowerment and education. And I wanted to first ask you, were you a healthy eater growing up? And how did you get interested in healthy nutrition for you and your kids?
Fantastic question. Do you know when I was growing up, like I'm 53 now, and when I was growing up, there wasn't a lot of talk about health or food. We played outdoors every afternoon. My mum cooked every one of our meals. My lunchbox was a simple sandwich with a fruit and maybe a cake that my mum had made, and we rarely had takeout. So the world was very, very different. And food was just food. And if we got to have lollies, it was only ever at a party or at Christmas time. So very, very different. Then I obviously grew up, left home, got a corporate job, crazy hours, and I survived on caffeine and alcohol and whatever the shop across the road was selling. Or I remember when I met my husband 20 years ago, it wouldn't be uncommon to have like Subway for dinner, for instance, because I'd work so late. So everything my mum had taught me at home was obviously still in the back of my head, but I wasn't playing it out in my, early 20s, early 30s. But 11 years ago, my husband was diagnosed with postnatal depression after my son was born. And his psychologist said, why don't you look at sleep, exercise, and what you're eating as a form of treatment, because he didn't want to go down the path of medication. And that was when my eyes were opened to the power of food, because I started to research and I found this massive connection between food and mood and depression and anxiety and OCD and all of these conditions, which are so prevalent in today's society. So that just spurred me on to study and learn more. And it's been pretty much my way of life. I wouldn't say we are 100% clean eaters. That's very difficult in an environment where you've got 2 school-age kids where everybody else is surviving off takeaway and packet foods. And I'm very much an advocate of, allowing them to understand how food affects their body, whether it be real food that I know helps their body or food that I know doesn't help their body. They need to experience it so they understand the difference in how their body feels.
Yeah. Well, what a gift you got from your husband's diagnosis,
I know, right? We
right?
often talk about that was the turning point. If you had asked me back then, what will you be doing, in 2022. I would never have thought I'm doing what I'm doing now. Like I've been doing for the last 9 years. Like that was the impetus for me starting the root cause. It was the impetus for me to really delve into children's health, because what started to happen is as I changed what we were eating at home, it meant that what I was sending my daughter to school with to eat become very different from the average Australian lunchbox. So here in Australia, we send our kids to school with food. We don't have cafeterias and those kinds of things.
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah.
Oh, so they
So
don't have that. They don't have
No.
cafeterias that where they will serve the food if you don't bring your food.
That's right.
Really?
So
Okay.
it's about 90% of our children take food from home in what's called a lunchbox. And the balance of children either have no food. It's about 2% of kids have no food, which is very sad. And then the others get their food from the school canteen or tuck shop, and they're notorious for not being great food. It's things like pies and sausage rolls and things like that. So,
and what did you call it? They get it from the what?
A canteen or a tuck shop is what it's called.
Canteen or a tuck shop? Tuck shop?
Yeah, tuck shop, yes.
What is that?
It's like a place where it's usually run by volunteers or a paid person by the school, and they serve the kids. Like kids put in a lunch order, and they might put in, for a toasty, which is like cheese and ham toasted on a sandwich, or pies, but they also sell packets of chips, and they sell what we call here in Australia slushage, which is just ice mixed up with cordial poured over the top. And yeah, I know, right? Not food to service a kid for school. But anyway, so when I started changing what we were eating, my daughter's lunch went from being, back then it would have been a sandwich with spread on it. So 2 pieces of white bread, because I knew no better. We have a spread over here called Vegemite, which is, yeah. So
I've heard of that.
Vegemite. Yeah. And then she would have had a piece of fruit, and I would have bought her a couple of packets of, what deemed lunchbox friendly foods by the marketers. So that all changed. And by the time she was 6, she was getting teased about the food that she had in her lunchboxes. And she stopped eating at school. So I would pick her up and she would be like shaking because she was so hungry. Yeah. And so for me, I was like, how is this that, how can a child be getting teased for eating food that's actually helping them? So I spoke to her teacher and she said, look, why don't you come in and just explain to the kids why she's eating that kind of food? So I thought, how am I going to make this fun and exciting for children to understand the connection between what they're eating and how it can make them feel, how it can make them concentrate, even how it could make them sleep. So I created some quirky little experiments to reinforce those messages, and included, how to teach them to read a packet label, like to ignore the front and look at the ingredients and ask what's in my food. So I designed that just for her class, 25 kids. And overnight, the teacher went to the head of the school and said, everybody needs to know this. I had parents reaching out saying, my son's going into the kitchen pantry and pulling out foods and reading the labels and saying, Mum, we shouldn't really be having this. And, it just happened that all of a sudden I had different schools asking me to come and talk to the kids about the food that they were eating. So that was the catalyst of my schools program. And this month we're celebrating 200 schools that we've been into, which I'm pretty proud of, because for the last 2 years with the pandemic, we haven't been really allowed into any.
Yeah. So now, so you travel to the schools to each school?
I've trained up. Well, we travelled Australia for 2.5 years, and I went right around the country running the program, testing
that's right.
it.
I remember you talking about that before.
Yeah. So I did that personally myself for 2.5 years, and I went into 90 schools. And then when I got back, I trained up women around the country so that I stay put pretty much now, do a little bit of traveling, but not much. I've got people around the country who have made it their own business using my content to go into schools. So
are you going to elementary schools, high schools, middle schools?
Predominantly, I think what you call elementary school. So this is the schools for kids that are between 5 and 12.
Okay.
And that's the kind of formative years where we get the opportunity to really change their thoughts around food. Quite often by the time they get to high school, if they haven't already started to learn it, it's quite a difficult change. But with that said, I have developed a high school program now, and we're starting to pilot it going into high schools. And with those kids, I'm focusing the messages not necessarily the same as what I do with younger kids, but around things that like self-esteem, how it affects your hair, your skin, your nails, your muscles,
I love it.
all of that. Yeah. So very early stages. And I've also developed what we call early learning centres here in Australia, which is for children that are between 3 and 5. So I've created one for them, and we're now going out into those centres as well.
Really? And so how did you get the kids interested in the ingredients? Why do they care?
Well, we set it up. My whole premise around this is there's no use telling kids about, like a healthy food pyramid and all of the rules that people have about food.
Right.
They need to understand why it's important for them and, how it affects them. Yeah. So all the experiments that we do are around getting them to realize that we only have one body for life. And, like if you've got a really nice car, you wouldn't put really bad petrol into that car. So, what do we need to put in our body so that we go the best that we can, and we talk about doing, why it's important to eat a rainbow of fruits and vegetables, how it helps different parts of your body. So, when you're eating red fruits and vegetables, it helps your mood, your heart, your memory, and your sleep. But if you eat green, it helps your energy, your lungs, your skin, your bones, your teeth, your sleep. So we've got to eat a lot of them. And then we do a green smoothie taste test.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
We put frozen bananas, strawberries, baby spinach, and water. And so they've just learned how all the different colors help them. So now they're learning that this one drink that they can have before they come to school can help lots of parts of their body. But the real interesting part is, like, we have like 80 to 100 kids in a hall at one time, and you pour the green smoothie into the cup and they all go, because it look, right. Like they'll say it looks like snot, it looks like vomit,
like sludge.
Yeah, all of the things that, but of course, when they smell it, it smells like banana. So that generates a conversation of, well, bananas are white when they're peeled. Why does it look green, And then what does it taste like? And so, of course, when they taste it, it really does taste like a banana smoothie, not like a green smoothie.
Yeah.
So that generates a lot of conversation about how something that they would notoriously turn away from because their eyes would say yuck, can taste totally different. And then we then say, okay, well, we've just been talking about food from nature, food that our bodies know how to use and know, and needs. Let's talk about another group of food. And so we put on a lab coat and goggles, and we talk about foods that start in a chemistry lab in a factory. And they just happen to be like the foods that kids are commonly eating: packets of chips, muesli bars, squeezy pouches of yogurt, bottles of sports drinks. And we pull all that out, and everyone's like shocked because it's the first time that they've actually realized that these foods that, that they eat commonly, like in Australia, the average lunchbox has 2 packet foods in a day, that those foods aren't actually made in nature. Like, their bodies really don't know how to use them. They start in a chemistry lab in a factory. And then that's when we teach them about, we're not saying you can't eat these foods, but what we're saying, let's make better choices. And how do you make better choices is by just turning the packet around and asking what's in them. And so we teach them a life skill, because we've got to be real. These foods aren't going anywhere,
right.
like
and they're very easy.
Yes.
Right.
And that's also the marketing. Like we talk to them about, depending upon their age, for the older kids that are like 10 to 12, we'll talk to them about the marketing messages, that we're told that they're lunchbox friendly, that they're cheap. But, one of those popper drinks, which is a fruit box over here, it's really like all the nutrition's been stripped out and it's just sugary water by the time the kids get it.
Yeah.
That, in one of those boxes is 7 teaspoons of sugar. And when you get it from Mother Nature, you get all the important fiber in, say, that apple, that slows down the natural sugar that's in there. But when you're sipping it through a straw in a minute, you're getting lots of sugar. And so, we talk about how it makes their energy levels spike and then they crash. But then we also talk about, when you look at it from a price perspective, it ends up being about 50 cents a box, but that's how much an apple costs too.
Right.
So now we get to ask ourselves, if we've got 50 cents to spend, what's the best way to spend it for our body?
Yeah. That makes sense.
So loads of conversations. And I love, like, at the end of our sessions with the kids, they go for about 90 minutes, but they're up and down, because we'll talk a bit and then they'll go to an experiment station, conduct an experiment, come back. And then at the end, we open up for like questions and answers. And, it's incredible, the questions that kids ask, like fascinating questions. They question, well, why is this allowed in our food supply? And all of those kinds of things, or
that's a great question.
It is a great question. And then they say, do we have to ask what's in my food for the food that we feed our pets? Or I know, right? And then this one was probably one of the best questions I've ever had, when a boy asked me, so eggs are like from nature because they're from chickens, but could they also be processed too, depending upon how the chickens are being raised? And I was like, oh, let's explore this a little bit more. And he said, well, like chickens should be roaming around in the fields and pecking from the earth, but a lot of them are put in cages.
Yes.
And so he said, would they be processed? And I said, do you know what? I've never been asked that, but if you're asking for my opinion, then I would say, those eggs probably are processed, because the chickens aren't eating the way that they should, and they're not getting to roam around the way they should. And you could see, like, in his mind, he'd already thought about that and rationalized that that's not really the right way for a chicken to be kept.
Oh, wow.
And so that he shouldn't be eating those. Oh, it's fascinating. I think we don't quite comprehend how intelligent kids are about food in their body, because we don't talk about it.
Right.
It's food has just become like it's the thing. And for a lot of parents who are now busy and stressed and time poor, it's almost like food's an inconvenience, that it's something that they have to do. Oh, those damn kids need to be fed again, But, I guess I see my job as actually helping make it easier for parents to get their kids to eat healthier, because look, it's almost like a universal law. Kids don't like to listen to their parents. If you say that's healthy, then they want to do something totally opposite. So kids are hearing the messages from someone other than their parents, and they're having fun at the same time. Like, we're actually not just, like ramming it down their throat saying, this is what the food pyramid says. We're actually giving them experiments for them to explore and to cement the ideas themselves. So I love it.
That sounds like so much fun.
It is. It's in all my years of corporate work, like 17 years of being in corporate, never did I actually have at the end of the day, yes, that was just the best day. But every single time you get to stand up and talk in front of kids or teachers or kids, like you can see the light bulbs coming on. And it's just, yeah, it's almost instantaneous feedback. Like there's never a session that you run where you don't have someone that says that it's been life-changing, which is pretty amazing.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And so you're doing these experiments in schools. And so do the parents, can the parents watch the experiments too? Or is it just the kids running home and telling their mom and dad what they learned today?
We focus on what we call a whole school community approach. So we've got different elements of the program for different groups. So for the kids and their teachers, we run what we call our information incursions, where they get to do the experiments. So it's hands-on for them. And that's typically because, like, we know that kids will grapple and hold on to those things, and then in their classroom we give teachers like resources to help them continue that in the classroom. But we don't get the parents to come into that session, because what happens is when parents get involved, there's this weird dynamic that happens, because like you will quite often get parents say, oh, my child won't have that green smoothie. No, they don't eat green. But when they're in a hall full of kids everybody's trying it, they don't want to be the one that misses out. But if their parents are in there, like they're looking over their shoulder, so we suggest that the incursions are best left for the students. And then we have a parent information session where we talk about what it was that we spoke to the kids about, what the experiments were. We give them a handout and some suggestions on conversations they can keep having at home.
Well, I would like you to come to the US and conduct experiments for adults so we can all come, because I think it would be a fun thing to do. A lot of adults don't know this information.
No,
the kids don't know it. The adults don't know it either. And I just think it sounds like a lot of fun.
I've never thought about it from an adult's perspective, but yeah, definitely. I mean, definitely the one about reading the packet labels is so important, because parents are the ones doing the shopping, right?
That's right.
But a lot of them are so busy and they are only seeing the messages that are on the side of bus shelters and on TV and on YouTube. So they don't know any different. Like it's not uncommon for people to go, oh my gosh, I can't believe I was feeding my child that. In fact, that was me like 11 years ago when I started learning it. I was like, I got really angry at first. Like I was like, how can they be doing this? I was so angry. And when I was studying, one of the ladies I was studying with, she goes, Belle, you're coming across like a nut job, which is like a crazy person, and no one's going to listen to you. You've got to find a way to harness your passion and get the message across without coming across like a crazy person. So I was like, good lesson there. Thank you for that. And that's where I discovered it was really important to share stories with people, like so that they can see what's available, to get them to think about, oh, if my child's having nightmares every night, maybe it's connected to the food that they're having. Or if my child's got eczema and they're scratching their skin and it's red raw, maybe there's something in the food that they're eating.
Yes.
Or if my child's getting a bleeding nose all the time, maybe there's something in the food which is why I call the business the root cause, because, like when you look at what is the root cause of this behavior, like what's going on, and you trace back, quite often it comes to either an emotional situation or a food situation. So very much. Yeah.
Whenever something goes wrong in my body, which is not very often, I'm like, what did I eat? What did I eat? What was it? And I have to trace it back. Oh, something I like for anniversary, we went out and we brought our food with us. salads, and it was stormy and we didn't want to go out. So the next day we were on our way home and we didn't have any food with us. So I said, well, let's go to this restaurant, just get something to go. Oh my gosh. There wasn't much available. So there were onion rings and fries and a grilled cheese. And I thought, oh, the grilled cheese is on sourdough. Well, the sourdough might be okay. I don't think it was on sourdough. So I ate a couple bites and I ate a couple onion rings. I'm like, okay, I'm done. And we got home and I felt terrible. And I felt terrible the next day. So I know my body doesn't like terrible food. It just does not handle it well. And I was lethargic for 2 days. And I thought, why did I do that? Because I don't normally do that. But, I needed something to eat.
Well, that's the message that I was saying at the start about with my own children. Like I shop very cleanly, but if they go to someone else's house, I don't say, oh, you can't eat that. I just let them eat whatever's on offer. But I love when they come home, like especially if they've been away on a school camp or something, they come back, oh, can I just have veggies? Like because they understand how their body feels. And that's the biggest gift that we can give our children in the world that they're growing up in, right, is to actually really understand that if I keep eating like this, I'm just not going to feel great. What's really quite interesting is I've had parents who say to me, oh, they only feel like that because they eat so cleanly. Well, yeah, don't we want our kids to feel great all the time? I think we're so used to walking around in this state of what people feel is normal that they don't realize that they could feel so much better.
Yes.
So that's the real challenge, is getting people to go, okay, well, how much better could I feel if I just, tweaked what I ate?
It's amazing what it feels like to have, like me, I am full of energy every day. And people are like, you must drink coffee. No, I don't. Yes, I do have a podcast called Coffee with Kim, but it's decaf and it's like once in a while. But I know people say they have to have coffee to start their day. And I do not. I'm full of energy because I eat such whole, good, nutritious food. So I know what it feels like, but a lot of people don't know what it feels like to feel like this. And that's everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is. It's like if you haven't got your health, then you're only half living your life.
Yes.
You're only almost like sleepwalking through it, which people don't comprehend that, and which is for this generation of children. I'm about to get on my rant soapbox.
Please do.
So, you look at this current generation of children, my children are 11 and 16. So their generation, kids that they're growing up with, and even worse for the children who are younger, they're now battling overweight and obesity, fatty liver disease, diabetes type 2, high blood pressure, stroke.
Are kids dealing with these types of things? Was one of the questions I was going to ask you about. What diseases are you seeing in children, and how young are they?
Well, I haven't read this report myself, but one of my instructors sent it through saying in the UK, they've just diagnosed a first child who's 3 with diabetes type 2. So diabetes type 2 is a lifestyle-related condition. There are genetic factors at play, but typically it's lifestyle-related. So the foods that we're eating and the amount that we're moving our body. That condition used to be once called adult onset. People used to only get it after 50 from years of neglect of their bodies.
Right.
But, and that's because I'm in my 50s. Back then, when I was growing up, we didn't have all of these foods. It wasn't an everyday thing, whereas now it is. In Australia, 43% of our children have at least one form of chronic health condition, like a health condition that will impair their life for the rest of their life.
That's alarming.
It is, but you know what? That's actually worse than the US. I don't have the US exact numbers, but I do have a prediction that they have estimated. I heard it through a holistic pediatrician, Dr. Elisa Song, who's US based. And they're now projecting that by 2025. So we're talking 3 years away. In America, 8 out of 10 children will have some kind of chronic health condition.
Oh,
that's pretty
wow.
frightening.
That's starting way early.
Mm.
And you know, diabetes can lead to Alzheimer's.
Oh,
that's a big predictor.
Predictor
of Alzheimer's.
And Alzheimer's, glaucoma, amputations, all of that stems from diabetes type 2. So, and they're talking about that diabetes type 2, it's the pre-diabetes that they don't even know how to quantify how many people are walking around pre-diabetic at the moment. But there's big predictions that's a vast amount of our population.
That's so scary. All because of what we put in our mouths, right?
And the thing is there's a real knock-on effect. The food that you put in your mouth affects how you feel about moving your body. It affects how you sleep, and then how you sleep affects how you feed, and then it's a vicious circle.
Yeah.
So again, the root cause of a lot of what's going on can come back to just how we're nourishing our bodies. What are we putting into it?
Wow. It's so scary. I wanted to tell you, I looked at your website. It's incredible.
Thank you.
There's so much information, and you have I don't know how many recipes on there. Did you come up with all these recipes yourself?
I think there's about 170 at the moment. I don't get as much time to recipe create as I used to.
Wow, you must have had a lot of time before, because that's a lot of recipes.
Well,
that's a cookbook.
You know what I actually did, Kim, was if I was cooking something at home and it was simple and it was like a hit with the family, I'd just scribble it down in a book, and then I'd type it up. And I thought, if it can help someone else get their kids to eat more real food, so be it. But now with COVID for the last 2 years, because my business just kind of went like that, I pivoted and made an online membership for families. So I've created each month I do a cook along with kids, where I teach them how to cook something. And then I've created some online experiments for them to do to explore about food and how it affects their body. And then I do live coaching for the parents to help them as well. And so the recipes now that I create tend to be for my paid membership. I can't keep putting free stuff up on my website and then charging people for it. So last month, the kids told me that they wanted to make jelly,
jelly?
Learn how to make jelly. So
chili or jelly? Chili with beans?
No, jelly, wobbly jelly that's
jelly.
So jelly, yeah.
Okay.
And so I don't know if you've got it in America, but we have boxes of crystals that you add hot water into, and that makes jelly. And it's used for a dessert, but it's typically really high in sugar. So I've just been creating, getting frozen berries and turning them into a cordial that you can add soda water to make a fizzy drink. And then I've been practicing how would I turn that into a homemade jelly for dessert. And so that's what I'm teaching the kids this month. I'm teaching them how to make their own homemade cordial, so you don't buy that stuff from the shelf that's loaded with, chemically concocted colors and all of that. This is all the natural, beautiful richness that come from frozen berries. And then how do you take that and then turn it into this delicious dessert?
Yeah.
So
How do you
yeah.
take that and turn it into jelly?
You get some gelatin.
Oh, the gelatin.
And
Yes, that makes sense.
yeah. So but the beautiful thing is throughout those cook-alongs, it's not just about cooking, it's actually about empowering them to recognize that home food science, like we talk about what's actually in what we're making compared to that little box that you would get from the supermarket. So we talk about that box first. Okay, so that's got 20 ingredients in it. That's getting a bit far away from nature. It's got, like 30 teaspoons of sugar in it. So we talk about that at the same time as, okay, let's make it use our own home food science rather than factory food science. What's going in here, like beautiful berries that have been taken from the vine, and they're reds, they help our mood, our heart, our memory, and our sleep. So we go through that whole educational experience, as well as them getting the richness at the end of being able to eat what they've made. So yeah, I love it.
Are you sure you don't want to do this for adults in person? I'm not kidding. I mean, I know I said it before, but I would totally do this.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I'll have to work out how do I market that to adults? How do you get adults to really want to spend a bit of time to do that? I don't know.
Well, if they don't feel well and they're suffering from diseases, they might be a little motivated to try something new, right?
Well, yeah, well, look, if you want to put me in contact with people, maybe I can do something, because I teach all these kids online over Zoom. I run Zoom sessions, like teaching them to cook, send them out a recipe in advance. They get their ingredients, they do their prep. So
that sounds like so much fun. It really does. And you make it fun. Right? It's not boring. You have to tell people it's not boring. It's actually fun. It's hands-on.
Yeah, it is. And in July, we do in Australia, I don't know if you do it over there, but we do a Christmas in July. It's like the thing that breaks up the year. And so next month, the kids are creating their own menu plan from all of the different recipes that we've made. And then we're going to have like a virtual live dinner party where we all get together at the same time and we eat the food together that they've created from all the recipes that they've had. So, yeah.
And so you're on a Zoom call doing this?
Yeah.
And everybody's on camera. Everybody's like, there's a million faces on the screen and everybody's eating.
Yeah. It's
okay. That sounds like fun.
Yeah, it's usually about like 20 families that, come on, and it's quite noisy because we let the microphones open and everyone talks over the top of each other, but it's a little bit of fun.
Probably hear a lot of clanking and chewing.
Oh, but it's beautiful because you can see that the kids go to they set the dinner table nicely, like they put the cutlery out, they get flowers, it's beautiful. It's like it's teaching them so much more than just about food and cooking. Like it's teaching them about family connection. Like
and do you teach them that? Do you teach them to get flowers and
we give them ideas of what they can do,
like presentation is everything, right?
Yeah. I mean, and some families just turn up, other families really go all out, but the beautiful thing is just that recognition that you can have connection over food.
I love it.
Like it is. It's a lot of fun.
Well, you're really making a difference.
Yeah. I do. I know it is. It's the most rewarding work. Actually, my membership doesn't matter what part of the world that you're coming from. It's online. That was one of the beautiful things that come from COVID. All of a sudden, I realized that I could help people from other countries. I don't openly, market outside of Australia, but I have people from New Zealand and the UK. Got one from India, like who's in there. So, because it's all the resources are online, and even if they can't make the live events, there's the replays for them to, to watch and do. So yeah, it's great.
Yeah, and so is your program called the Lunchbox Reset? Is that what it's
Oh
called?
no, I've got
or
a
is that
number of
something else?
programs. I've got a
Okay.
number of different programs. So the one that I was just telling you about is my Kids Health Quest membership.
Okay.
So that's an online health education membership for the whole family. So there's things for parents, and then there's things for the kids. And that's a month. It's kind of like a Netflix for family health education. Like there's just loads of resources that people can go in, and they pay a monthly fee to access it and be part of the community. My Lunchbox Reset program is a short online self-paced program to help parents pack, nutritious lunchboxes quickly for families.
So tell me really quickly again, what goes into a nutritious lunchbox?
Well, the very first thing I like to get people to realise, sandwiches are the staple in Australia. So if you want to send a sandwich to school, choose better quality bread, because white bread is just like processed, no nutrition in it. So choose something, a bit better, like a whole grain. If you can get your kids to have sourdough and you can afford it, even better. But it's what you put in the sandwich that makes the difference. Excuse me. So having some protein and some good fats in there, for people who eat meat, chicken that you've roasted, or if you don't, mash up some chickpeas, those kinds of things. Like your filling is what's really important. So in my Lunchbox Reset, I teach people how to make a great sandwich. If you don't do sandwiches, your leftovers from dinner, like if you go into the effort to make a great dinner, turn that into your lunch. It's only our own heads that have been told from marketing that that's not what goes into a lunchbox. So you can put your leftovers in. So today my kids are I made vegetarian sausage rolls for dinner last night. So roasted up pumpkin and sweet potato, and then added some black beans and, all these spices in it. And so, they're having those. We had them for dinner, and now they're having them for lunch today for school.
Oh, I bet they were so excited to have that for dinner, because they knew they were going to have it for lunch the next day.
Exactly. So when I kind of work out what I'm going to eat for the week, like I ask the kids on Saturday, what do we want for meals this week? And I always make sure that there's at least 3 days a week where those meals can become their lunches, because then I know that that they're going to be loaded with heaps of veggies, because we have that, that they're going to be foods that they love because they've had it the night before. So, it just makes life easier.
And they're probably full of fiber too.
Yes, exactly. Which, of course, is becoming more and more well known that our gut is our second brain. It's affecting our physical and our mental health. And our gut requires fiber. And of course, that's the big thing that's missing from most people's diets now. So,
And people eat a lot of things that raise their blood sugar with whatever they're eating. Like you were talking about white bread.
Yeah.
That'll do it.
Yeah.
So in the lunch too, do you put extra veggies? Do you put fruit?
Yeah. We always have like a small amount of veggies and a piece of fruit. And that for my kids, if they've got a great main lunch and they've got their fruit and veggies, they don't really need a lot of other snacks. Like people pack lunch boxes with all these little packets of snacks because because their kids are hungry, but what they don't realize, that's because that food is empty. So you need to keep having lots of it to try to fill them up. Whereas if you strip that out and actually had like a really great sandwich or a great lunch, they don't need all of that other stuff because they're getting full from the food. So it's really marketing over here in Australia, and I'm assuming America, like where they say that these foods are convenient and they're cheaper. Well, they might seem cheaper when you look at them individually, but when you add up how many of them you have to buy to actually make a difference, it's actually not. Like your big batch of, like, say, spag bowl that you've made, whether it be with lentils or mince last night, that you turn into spag bowl muffins for your lunchbox for the next day,
Yeah.
That is far cheaper and will fill them up so much more than any of the packet stuff that you
Right.
buy.
Because you probably have healthy fats and you have a lot of fiber, which fills you up.
Yeah,
So all these other things don't have fiber in them. They probably don't have healthy fats. And so you're hungry all the time. So you have to
yeah,
eat what, 2, 3, 4, 5 times as much just to feel the same way you would if you ate a high fiber, healthy meal.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah,
So interesting.
it
So,
is.
so what's your favorite part about what you do?
Oh, I think it's knowing that at some level, even if the kids can't get their parents to change the food themselves, that they've actually in their head, they've now got the message that I only have one body for life and I need to take care of it. Like
Yeah.
that for me is so important, because a lot of us, like I said before, are sleepwalking through life. We're not realizing that what we're putting in our body today is going to affect, what we're going to be like in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, and that everything we do today compounds. So if every day you're eating, like people say, oh, just it's in moderation, or let kids be kids. But if every day they're eating these foods that are supposed to be in moderation and those foods aren't helping their body, every single day that adds up.
Yeah.
And at some point in time, your body's going to say, I can't take this anymore. So I think just the giving kids the gift of having the message that I only have one body for life and every day I need to be taking care of it. Like that's pretty special.
Yeah. So do the parents usually listen to their kids? If the kids learn all this stuff and they go home and they tell their parents, you won't believe what I've learned today, do a lot of them say, well, we're not going to change? And so then the kids can't eat the way that you just taught them.
Yeah, look, I would say there's 3 kinds of camps of parents. So there's the camp of parents who have been trying to get their kids to eat better, but have been fighting with them about it. And so when their kids come home and said, oh, I had a green smoothie today, can we get some baby spinach? Or I learned that tiny teddies or shapes or whatever the packaged food has too much sugar. Then those parents are like, yes, now we can make change. And for me, that's like, if I can get that to happen, that's awesome. There's another group of parents who are unaware but are open. Like when their kids come home, they go, oh, okay. And so they start to get into it and make some changes. And then there's the group of parents who are either totally unaware and totally not interested, or who are so stressed and time poor that they just can't see it in their head that they can make any change. And you're never going to shift them. Like, I mean, years ago, I used to get upset by, oh, can't they just see what's available to them, But then one of my mentors said, like the best that you can do is actually shift the people who are ready to be shifted and don't stress yourself about the people who aren't. So,
right.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Boy. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to share?
Oh, gosh. I feel like I've just rattled on for probably way too long. I guess the message that I would just like to give everybody is that we do only have one body for life. Our body's our temple. And just like if you could afford to buy a beautiful Tesla or a Ferrari or a Maserati, and you would put the right oil in it and the right fuel and you would wash it, that's what we need to do with our bodies. Just need to, and I'm not saying perfection. I'm just saying most days, most food, make it food that counts for your body.
Yeah. It's funny. I think you probably heard it, but Warren Buffett talks about, he's talking to a group of people and he says, I'm going to give you, if I said, I'm going to give you a brand new car. Now, would you like a brand new car? What kind would you like? And they tell him, I don't know if you've heard this before. And so he goes, okay, I'm going to give you that car that you like, that you love, But the only thing is, you have to keep that car your entire life. You're only going to get one car. So I'm going to give you the car of your dreams, and you only get the one car your whole life. And so you would take care of that car, right? You would take care of it. If you only were going to have one car your whole life. And so why don't people treat their bodies the same way? Because they only get one body. So it was interesting.
Yeah,
I like
that's
that.
That's a really great, like that would be a great thing to ask even an adult, you know, like I'm thinking of like I could weave that in for kids.
Yeah.
Excuse me, but even saying to an adult, if you were just going to get that one car and you had to make that one car last, you know, like 40 years, what would you do?
Right.
You know? So yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Of course, I should actually say, if anyone over there is or listening is interested in learning more about my family membership, then, you know, by all means, jump on and to our website, which is therootcause.com.au, and just scroll down and find the Kids Health Quest membership, and you can jump on and check that out and see if it's something of interest, because it's all online, you know, resources that you can access. There's kitchen skills, you know, videos that where I've got kids teaching kids how to use kitchen skills, you know, like how to use a knife safely. And we've got ones where we teach them about gut health, and yeah, so lots of fun things. So yeah, by all means, feel free to check that out.
Well, I need the one about the knife skills because my husband doesn't like me to have knives because I'm like, he's like, oh no, now what happened? I'm always bloody when I use a knife. I have to be really mindful. Like I can't be distracted at all but somehow something happens. So yeah, maybe I should learn from children about knife skills and it'd be much nicer around here if I wasn't bleeding all the time. So tell me, where else can people find you? And I will also include it in all of them, all the places into the show notes. So where else?
Both on Instagram and Facebook. It's the Root Cause AU, because there is I think there's a heavy metal rock band from the UK that are called the Root Cause. And I know I should join forces and we could create.
That's a great idea.
And of course, I'm on LinkedIn as well for those people that hang out, although I'm not as active in LinkedIn because that's not where parents tend to hang out. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, I will include it in the show notes. And thank you. You are doing such a great service for parents and schools and for children. And thank you so much for joining me today. I know that you have a busy schedule. You're going to be traveling all around doing all these things in the next couple of months. Are you going to be doing TV, radio? What are you going to be doing?
Well, I've got a regular radio gig that I do every Tuesday mornings now, and we're hoping to get some television coverage of our big 200th incursion. We're putting a big breakfast on for the school and showing kids about how you can, you know, and parents, how you can make beautiful breakfasts at home pretty quickly. So that's going to be exciting. So hoping to get TV coverage from that. I haven't heard back yet. I've put out my press release. We'll see how it goes. Oh, you can see the sun's coming up in my.
I know. I can see half your face is shadowed.
Yeah.
You still look good, though, I must say.
Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Well, Belinda, thanks for coming on the show, and I hope you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you so much, Kim. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
I'll talk to you soon.
All right.
Okay.
See you.
Bye.